All right, I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. I don't know. Someone reported me, not y'all, but I don't know. Somebody reported me and said it had copyright infringements on my video. But yes, so now we're on chronic ulcerated lesions. So you think of chronic as the same lesion for a very long time. So T stands for time. There's two T's. And then CPBM. I couldn't figure out what that would stand for, but that is the acronym for chronic ulcerated lesions. Okay, perfect. All right, so everyone joining, the acronym for chronic ulcerated lesions is SAME because you have the same lesion for a very long time. T stands for time. There's two T's. CPBM can stand for baby mama and CP like a computer. All right. So for the rest of them, bone pathology was very long and I could not think of an acronym for that. So we're just going to have to know that. But for generalized gingival enlargement, I did come up for an acronym for that one. So for generalized gingival enlargement, the acronym is 20 P of large gingival here. So plenty large gingival here is the acronym for generalized gingival enlargement. But once again, I do not have an acronym for skin lesions in bone pathology. All right, so a few ways that I remember some of the lesions we left off at. Brown lesions. Okay, turn off my alarm. Okay, so we left off at brown lesions. And the way that I remember P. Jigger syndrome. So jigger, we kind of think of someone who gets jiggy with it, someone who dances. And also with jiggy, we think of someone who has a lot of sexual relations. So this affects children. So this person has a lot of sexual relations, has multiple children because this lesion has multiple lesions. And then also I said jiggy. So a lot of people say that some people were born to dance or Black people, they were just born knowing how to dance. So this is also a genetic lesion. So P, jigger, jiggy, genetic, multiple lesions that affects children. All right. I'll try to even go slower. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to not waste anybody's time. We have melanotic cytic nevus. Okay, so when I think of melanocytic nevus, I think of a city girl. So this city girl, she's single, and so this is a single lesion, and that's all I got for that one. She's not in a relationship, and she's single, and we know it's a black brownish lesion. For blue-purple lesions, hemangioma. So I think of hemangioma as like a kid who gets on my nerves who gave me a tumor. So him, like he's a bad kid. And so kids are sour, then they're sweet. So this lesion affects children. It's the most common tumor in children. And so when I say he's sour, then he's sweet, this is a lesion that turns from red to purple. So this is a lesion that changes. And then also children are very hyper. So this is an elevated lesion, but when they get older, they kind of calm down a little bit, so it involutes. How do you say it? Yeah, involutes over time, so it kind of goes down. And you also think of a bad kid who's always sticking out their tongue. So this is a lesion that affects the tongue. So hemangioma is a bad kid who sticks out their tongue. He's the reason why I have a tumor, and they're sour and then they're sweet. So they're red, then they're purple. They're elevated, and then they involute over time. So ranula, that is a person who was running, and then they got tired, and so they fell on the ground. So ranula is a lesion that you see on the floor of the mouth. and it blocks the submandibular and the sublingual gland. Did I miss anything else? Oh, the U in ranula is for unilocular. Yes, unilateral, sorry. And then, yep, blockage of the submandibular gland. But guys, if you look at this and you just kind of highlight along with me, then it'd be a lot easier, maybe, if I don't have to go so slow. What does it say? Think of brown. MOPS. Yep. Yep. So I have MOPS poop. That is my acronym for brown lesions. All right. Mucosal. Okay, so mucosal, I think of a duct that wants to be sealed, right? But it can't because there's mucus coming out of it and going into the connective tissue. So mucosal is basically a severed duct. And I don't have a way to remember that it's on the mandibulolabial mucosa. Does anyone have a way to remember the location of that lesion? And this lesion is mucosal. So think of a duct. It wants to be sealed, but it can't. So this mucus is coming out. Okay, no one? Okay. Next lesion. Most of them, I feel like those are self-explanatory. Peripheral giant cell granuloma. Okay, so for this one, we're going to think of a big fat guy. And he wants to be seen, but he's always off to the side. No one really recognizes him. So he's blue and he's red. He's angry because he's fat, and he's sad because he's fat. And what else do I have for that one? We find it on the anterior gingiva because he wants to be seen, but he's off to the side. Oh, and then also he eats a lot. So imagine this person always cupping bone, and in this bone there's red blood cells. There's, what else is in the bone? Red blood cells, giant cells, and what else is in the bone? Red blood cells, giant cells, and granulation tissue. Mucoepidermoid carcinoma. So for this one, I have lots of salivary gland tumors. Lots of salivary glands is on the top of the palate. So we just find that in the palate area, mucoepidermoid carcinoma. So for composing sarcoma, I think of someone who's composing something. And so I think that like music kind of makes you free. So this is people who are affected with HIV. So a lot of people don't really start living their life fully until they get HIV. So just think of someone who, has an immune deficiency and now they just feel free. And so it's also, I think, an irregular lesion. Yeah, irregular nodule. And you find this on the palate and gingiva. So now they're at the top of their life now because they're feeling free. So the palate and the gingiva. So for papilloma, I just kind of remember that it's wart-like. And I remember the P is sessile. So sessile, remember, is kind of like goes up like this. Pedunculated means it's kind of, like that, like a peg. But sessile means it kind of goes up like this. And I kind of think of the P. I don't know. That's how I think. It's hard to explain papilloma. But Vicura vulgaris affects children. I said children put everything in their mouth. And it's a soft, single papillary sessile pink lesion. So I kind of think of like a circle, and I think of the tongue. I just kind of think of a circle. Some of them are hard to explain. I'll just go to the ones that I actually have a kind of a creative way of remembering it. So Hex disease, I remember this because children get on my nerves sometimes. So you're like, heck, these children are giving me a headache. So these are lesions that are elevated and they're flat. And then, so multiple soft, flat lesions. So all these children just keep getting on your nerves. So multiple lesions, heck these kids. And then also another name for Hex disease is multifocal epithelial hyperplasia. So if you forget multiple children are getting on your nerves, just remember the other name for Hex disease. And then vacuous carcinoma, we said that it takes a long time to get cancer. And so this is kind of how I draw vacuous carcinoma. Because I think it said it's velvety. It says, yeah, pebbly plaque. So vacuous, so with the V's. In carcinoma, it takes a long time to get it. So that's kind of how I remember vacuous carcinoma. And then PVL, remember we said PVL stands for pretty violent ladies. So we know that it affects ladies. And then we know proliferative vacuous leukoplakia. So proliferative means multiple, so we know it's a multiple lesion. Leukoplakia means white, so we know it's a multiple white lesion. And then remember, pretty violent means that it turns into cancer 70% of the time. So for pink lesions, and that acronym is 3P, 10, tan, SAN for anyone who is late. For peripheral ossifying fibroma, what I have for that is plenty of fish. So there's a lot of females who are on plenty of fish. So now we know the population, proliferative ossifying fibroma. And these females, they have been, I guess, what's the word that I use? Man, I can't remember, but ulcerated, I guess they're damaged. That's why they're on plenty of fish. They can't find a man. So many people have done them wrong. And PDL, like cells. I'm not sure how I remembered that one. Calcification. Define swelling. I don't know, but plenty of fish, females. That's how we remember the population. Epulus, peeling an orange. So I don't know if this is going to help you, but for epulus, I think of someone who's peeling an orange. So it kind of helps remember that it's pink as well. And that is usually when someone has like a denture and there's like fissuring and everything that goes with it. So I think of like, you know how an orange, you can separate it. So I kind of think of that as the fissuring. So for silolith, I think someone, silolith, let me write it on here so it's easier. Silolith, I think of someone who is sighing because they can't lift something. So it's affected on the floor of the mouth because they're sighing, they can't lift it, like, and then, oh, also the reason why they can't lift it is because it's a rock-like swelling. Rocks are heavy. So for acute chronic sialadenitis, the way that I remember that, sialadenitis, the reason how I remember that it's painful is I think of you're being dented. It's a dent, so it's painful. And then it's I can't remember how to remember that it's on the major and minor salivary gland. Does anyone have anything for that? How to remember the location? Painful swelling on the major and minor salivary glands. Acute and chronic. I'm gonna need y'all to like comment and stuff. Something. All right, so we have pyogenic granuloma. We know that's a pregnancy tumor. And then I think of pie. It's being cut. So it's maybe ulcerated. Nasolabial. Okay, so dermoid cyst. I like this one. So dermoid cyst. So dermoid cyst, I think of doe-like, because the D, and then also I think of its keratin filled because children care about it, has a lot of care in it. And then also I think about its on the anterior, or is it on the anterior? It just says the anterior floor of the mouth. Oh, okay, I remember it now. So anterior floor of the mouth, because this lesion looks like dough. It looks like, if anyone has ever cooked before, like dough like rises. So it fills all the bottom part of the mouth. So remember, dermoid cyst is dough-like, and then it's cared about. So it's keratin-filled because children love it. The population is children, and it's on the floor of the mouth. It rises like dough. So for pleomorphic adenoma, so for that one, I have a plea deal. So someone is pleading, so they're getting out of a worse deal. So the way that I remember the location of that is they're not getting the worst deal. So the worst deal is at the bottom. So they're getting a better deal by pleading. So it's at the buccal mucosa and gingival, possibly. Is that it? Yep. So it's not the gingival, sorry. So it's a buccal mucosa, upper lip, and palate. So buccal mucosa, upper lip, and palate. But you know what I mean. So just remember that this lesion is above. It's not at the bottom. It has to be above because they plead. And then how else? And then it's also painless because they took the plea deal. It's not as worse as a sentence. And then adenomocystic carcinoma. So the way that I think about this one is that adenomocystic, so these are sisters that get on each other's nerves. Adenomocystic, annoyed. This sister is annoyed. And so we have poorly defined swelling, constant pain. So you're really annoyed, like your head is hurting, but your mama just wants y'all to get along. So she's telling y'all sisters need to smile. So Swiss cheese. So she wants y'all to be pals. The location is palate. So adenoid cystic carcinoma is painful because your sister is always getting on your nerves, but your mama just wants y'all to Swiss cheese. She just wants y'all to be happy sisters. All right. Acute ulcerated lesions. That one is two-part can he. That is the acronym for acute ulcerated lesions. Okay, your apple juice is on the table in the kitchen. Okay. Oh, sorry. I haven't got to that yet. I went to bone pathologies to remember. All right, so ameloblastoma. We're on bone pathologies now because I skipped it. I was like, I don't like these. All right, so bone pathology. So for osteosarcoma, the way that I remember that is coma. So I think of someone who's in a coma. Okay, so this is osteosarcoma. What, baby?
What table?
In the kitchen.
I don't see it on the kitchen.
Okay. Well, you can pour yourself some apple juice. Sorry. All right, so osteosarcoma. The way that I remember this one.
Let me pack in a refrigerator.
Okay, you can pour yourself some.
Okay.
All right, so I think osteosarcoma, I think of someone who is so young. Oh, he is so young. So that's how we know the population. It's a male. He is so young, and he's in a coma. Osteosarcoma. And how else do we remember this one? It's painful because it's hurting your heart that he's in a coma. And then we have to look to the stars. So I think of looking to the stars in the sky and praying to God because you want him to get out of this coma. So another word for this is sunburst. So we see a sunburst appearance. So it's painful. It's affecting the head and jaws. You're clenching because you're so sad that he's in this coma. And it's a mixed lucency, so we don't know if he's going to get out of the coma. He may stay in or he may get out. So remember, osteosarcoma, he is oh so young, so it affects younger males. You have to pray to God. Your faith has to be strong because I think this widens the PDL ligament. So you have to have stronger faith in times like this. And sunburst appearance because you're looking to the star, the moon, whoever who can help you at this time of your need. All right, ameloblastic fibroma. The next one is AOT oats. I didn't come up with this one. Someone else came up with this. And somebody else came up with another one. So someone told me for oat, they think of titties. And then somebody else said that oats, they think that females like oatmeal more. So they said the population is females. But it's young, I think. Hold on, let me check. Like I said, I didn't come up with this one, so I'm struggling a little bit. Yeah. So, and oats look like snowflakes. So oats, they're saying females like oatmeal more. Oats look like snowflakes and children love snow. So the population is female children under the age of 20. I want to say this one, but this one is way too inappropriate. If you want to know how I remember OKC and COC, then message me privately and I'll send you a video. All right. And then for cementoblastoma, the way that I remember that is I think of a bad kid who's in class. Aw, I love you too, Juliet. Okay, so for cementoblastoma, I think of a bad kid who's in class. So his grades aren't good, so he's not at the top of the class, he's at the bottom of the class, okay? And so he's sitting in the back of the class, so it's mandibular back teeth. And so this kid who is bad, he picks up some cement and he throws it in your face. So it's very painful, but you're gonna live. So the teeth are still vital, but you're in pain, and it affects the posterior mandible. And it's also unilocular. He only hits you with the cement one time. He just picks it up, just throws it at you. All right, so that's all I have so far for how I remember some of the lesions. So next, I want to go to the Pathfinder review. I sent it to everyone's email who liked the comment earlier about going live today. So if you didn't get it, just email me and I'll send it to you if you don't already have it. Okay, so for this one, displaces teeth, my acronym for displaces teeth is Cocoa Fade. Cocoa Fade is the acronym for displaces teeth. The acronym for vital teeth is LIT PC. So think of a PC that's lit up, you know, like it works. LIT PC. For non-vital teeth is 3PC. All right. That's non-vital teeth, 3PC. And then I don't have any acronyms for the rest of them. All right, so acronym I have for vital pope is normal. I don't know how to spell normal. Normal rest. So they're okay. The vital pope is normal rest. And then I think of chronic necrotic apical for non-vital pope because that usually affects the apexes of those tooth. All right. And so for how I remember a trophy, I just think of a trophy. So a trophy is basically a decrease in cell size. So you think of a trophy. So you think that the trophy decreases in cell size, or it just, so it's decrease in cell size or decrease in the number of cells. And then hypertrophy is increase in cell size. And then hyperplasia, I think of players. So multiple different players. So hyperplasia means more players, more cells. So yeah, so hyperplasia, increase in number of cells. And then for acute inflammation, my acronym for that is mini tick. So I think of time. So acute means like a short, like it happens in a short amount of time. So mini tick. So M stands for microbial, T stands for, I don't want to say it wrong, thermal. And then the other one stands for trauma. And then the other one stands for immune mediated, and the other one stands for chemical. So for acute inflammation is mini tick. And then my acronym for granular something inflammation is FAB, F-F-A-B. I am fabulous. Even though I have a chronic disease or chronic inflammation, I'm still fabulous. All right, so we have fever, biochemical mediators associated with fever. All right, so that one is PC and prostaglandins and then cytokines. And the way that I remember cytokines, I just think of this king, like I have my sight on this king and he is fine and he's making me a little hot right now. So cytokines. And then pain, the way that I remember that is PP for pain, prostaglandins, pain. And then kinin, I think of when people aren't kind to me, it's like it makes me, I don't know, it makes me sad and puts me in pain. So it induces pain when people are mean. So I want them to be kind. All right. And then systemic signs of inflammation. My acronym for that is FIL. So you have fever, you have increase in C-reactive protein. So C-reactive protein, lymphadenopathy, and then the other one is leukocytosis. And then the 5 cardinal signs of acute inflammation is TLC-RD. So I think of TLC, like the group TLC-RD. And that as far as I got, honestly, with studying. So I'm going to let y'all get back to studying, and I really hope that helped you. Anybody have any questions or want to share anything that they have? Oh, also Megan, she shared something earlier with me. Where I put it at? Oh, there it is. All right. So Megan said white spongy nevus. She said think of SpongeBob. The population is children. And then she also said osteomyelitis. So the way that she remembers that, she said that, oh, I love you too. The way that she remembers osteomyelitis, she was like, oh my, and she said it affects the mandibular arch. So she just thinks of like dropping her jaw and be like, oh my. And then also I was thinking, I wish I wrote it down. I can't remember. Oh, it's painful. The way that we remember that is like, oh my. So osteo has like 2 O's in it. So I think of these O's as like eyes. And so I'm like, oh, my eyes. And so now it's painful. Like, oh, my eyes hurt from even looking at it. Like, no. But yeah. But that's all we got for today, guys.
Hello.
All right. Bye, y'all. I love y'all.
And hi, bye.
Oh, Jada. You did good, though. I'm proud of you.